Guys, welcome to the first of my podcast experiments. It's pretty exciting for me because it's a very experimental space. I've never done a podcast before, so trying to figure that out has been tricky. But also the content nature of each of these experiences that I've had with people is all brand new to me as well. So that's been very experimental. And also, having dealt with the creative labs of YouTube in LA, realised that there isn't any podcasts with a visual flavour currently on the platform. And so I'm kind of trying to figure out how I can give you an audio experience with a flavour of visuals and make it right to stick on YouTube. So I'm kicking off today with the first of the experiences, which was absolutely incredible, with a good friend, Louis Cole, who you may well know, and a new and dear friend, Bryan Johnson. He has had an incredible journey. And I will put his links in the description below. Actually, both Louis made a vlog that day and Bryan also made a blog from the day. So I'll put both of those links below. But Bryan's journey has been insane. And I will also link in a podcast he did with Tim Ferriss, which really goes into the backstory of his journey. But the summary that you really need to know is that a few years ago, he sold his company to PayPal for $800 million. It was called Braintree. It's a big deal in payments. But more interestingly to me and our friendship is that money gave him the freedom to really start thinking long term about the future of the world, really think about what is good work and what can he do to add value. And that's where me and Louis met him when we were visiting the UN in New York a few months ago. We had an incredible afternoon and then we agreed that we would go and try and have some fun in various different places experimenting with technologies. So that took us down to the University of Southern California, where VR was birthed, where Mark Bolas and a bunch of others came up with virtual reality a couple of decades ago for the first time. And it's become interesting because now it's finally shipping at cost-effective prices. You know, the Samsung Gears just shipped for $99. So this is finally hitting a place where it's in people's homes. So before we get going on the kind of reflections that Bryan and I had after this experience, I want to show you a few visuals that give you a flavour for what we actually experienced and what happened there in the MXR labs, mixed reality labs. So I'm going to roll some visuals now so you can look at these and then we'll get back to audio afterwards. Okay. This is the cabinet of the history of VR in 1 second. This is the MXR labs and that is Wasef. And this is the legend himself, Vangelis. And he's pretty smart.
When you're fully enclosed in handheld VR
pathway to how...
Listen up to what Vangelis says here about senses, because it's easy to think it's all about the eyes in VR because it's visual.
Although we shouldn't overestimate the eyes and underestimate the ears. Because for us, audio is really big in virtual reality. We have a partnership with Dolby, we have a partnership with other core audio companies. It's very, very important to accommodate more senses. So the audio is the low-hanging fruit.
And this is our buddy Bryan, who is checking out immersive VR for the very first time. It is a mind-blowing experience.
Doing this production thing.
Yeah, that's a lot better.
Yeah.
And this is a 2D visualization of what the user of the tilt brush can see in the headset.
Like MS Paint was our entry point into the modern PC, right?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And so if this is our entry point into the modern VR experience.
I think once you try it, you'll believe that statement even more. It really is such a great entry point into what this can be. And it's a lot of fun. You just go in there, it's a rave. I love it.
A psychedelic dancer. This is Wasef. He works at the MXR.
He's not messing around, is it?
Is this the smoke monster from Lost?
Yeah.
And this is Bryan, as you know.
It's a molecule.
He's in a molecule. And you all know Louis on the right with the hair. So these things coming on the market? These
Eventually.
like a year, 2 years? What do you reckon?
No. 6 months.
Okay.
Yeah.
So when Bryan, Louis, Lisa, Andrew and I left the MXR lab, we started thinking and reflecting on what we had just experienced, which was absolutely incredible and completely different to anything any of us had done before. And this was Bryan's first response.
That was my first aha.
Yeah.
In the not just seeing VR, but experiencing.
That's same here.
Creation VR.
Same here. It seems that everybody who's involved in VR has some kind of revelationary experience, an aha moment, where suddenly it all clicks about how different we can perceive the world. And the experience that you and I even had, for me, that was a unique experience as well. Like Louis said, oh no, my world's gone. But I was like, except for the fact that Andrew knows his world. Like it would have been just totally gone, but he shared it with Andrew now, because Andrew went mental in Louis' world.
Yeah, he did
really
go mental.
About that.
Andrew did go mental in Louis' world.
Yeah. When you said Louis, I was like, oh, my world's gone, I feel sad.
Yeah.
But I was like,
that's dangerous though. That scares me, because imagine how good it could get.
Yeah.
And we were just like making Christmas trees, and then people wouldn't ever want to leave.
So firstly, let me explain. With these tilt brushes, you can paint and sculpt in 3D digitally. So Bryan went in there and created this abstract, ethereal molecule experience that I then put the headset on and went in and explored. And when Louis had the chance to do it, he went in and built this kind of galactic Christmas tree experience, which Andrew then went and sat inside and instantly was transformed into this joyful, gleeful child. And it was absolutely incredible, amazing to observe. I think the thing that's so interesting about this tilt brush experience is that we have no reference point for it. It isn't art, it isn't gaming, it isn't anything we've experienced, but it's kind of all of it at once. But what it means is I don't have any ideas as to whether I'm good at it or not. And more to the point, I don't even know what good looks like. So it gave us the freedom to just express like I've never seen before. And because it's so physical, you have to actually engage with the digital space around you. It actually begins to look a bit like a dance of some variety. It's not the kind of couch potato digital experience we've been used to with the typical gaming idea or sitting behind your desk working all day. When Lisa was doing it, she looked like she was dancing with ribbons around the room. It was art just watching her.
So how else can we be useful to you guys?
Bryan is a very successful dude. And on a side note, a question like how else can we be useful to you guys is such a beautifully constructed question that is positive, encouraging, supportive, not taking control. But the undertone of it is a real sense of leadership, saying, hey, there could be something more we could be doing here. What else could you be engaging with? And I just think that questions like this are absolutely why this dude is doing so well with his life.
Be all right, I think.
I love the piano.
Yeah.
Such a random but elegant touch.
Yeah. In the UK, we've got them in our train stations, so people can just go up and play piano in the middle of the train station.
Yeah.
It's really a great cultural thing.
I love the subway manifestation of music and performance.
You can just hear in this guy's voice that he loves life on all kinds of different levels, from the most intense futuristic stuff all the way to just appreciating the environment he's in. I would say that what defines him and sets him apart from other people I meet is his powers of observation and his ability to listen to people intently and to give energy without dominating the conversation or the room. Sitting in the MXR lab, he is way further on than me and Louis. He knows way more about the space than Louis and I do. But in the end, it was me, Louis, and the guys who run the lab that ended up talking the most. You know, beautifully composed, great leader. Definitely a lot for me to learn from that. But anyway, me and Bryan get out into the plaza of the University of Southern California. We break away from the other guys. I've got to get some of the nuggets out of his brain onto my recorder so that I can show them to you guys. So we start to reflect on what we actually just experienced.
I think of the world in terms of operating systems or platforms. Like, for example, the printing press allowed people to write words and publish them worldwide, and for everyone to consume on any topic imaginable. And we have these amazing platforms of creation today, these operating systems. like genomics, synthetic biology, and we saw one today, virtual reality.
Yeah.
The ability that we could walk into the world in this blank canvas, and we could literally create anything we wanted, but there was no limitations. And it was immersive, it was a different form of perception and of creation. And there are platforms that allow for a new human experience we haven't had before that really has unlimited potential. It was remarkable.
So a little side note, I'm really sorry about the wind, guys, but we're walking through the university, it's windy. What are we going to do? But what Bryan's talking about here is the tools that underpin our ability to create, and that we're in a time like we've never seen before. So I asked him to go into a bit more detail about what those are.
The primary categories are artificial intelligence, robotics, 3D printing, genomics, the software that runs our body, synthetic biology, and virtual reality, artificial reality, that's what we experience today.
Not your average dude. He thinks big and he thinks forward about those platforms that can really transform our human experience, how we engage with our environment. But I wanted to know more, so I asked him, why do you put virtual reality on the same level as genomics and 3D printing?
Because it allows us to eliminate all barriers of creation instantaneously.
Right.
So, I think that as we did it today,
Yeah.
we each became giddy, like children, dancing around and laughing and giggling.
Yeah.
And when we ended the experience, we all felt this sadness that we couldn't go on longer. We had to share our toy with someone else.
Yeah.
And it's unique in that we don't have these societal limitations on what we can actually do.
Got it, yeah. It was like a blank canvas. It really was this, unique play area, and we didn't have the same, attachments to that space as we do other places. Like we might say we're not an artist or we're not a dancer.
That's
because
right.
We've been subscribed to those narratives, but in this new place, in this new space, we could be whoever we wanted to be.
That's right.
And Louis making a Christmas tree, a galactic Christmas tree space, and
Andrew's present in real life, big ball of plasma and energy.
Totally, yeah. And Lisa was like dancing around, like making this beautiful artistic
as though
creation.
no one was looking.
Yeah, exactly. That's it. And it freed you from some of the social norms that we let limit ourselves.
It really was a space like I've never seen before, and people did really surprising things, and it was beautiful to watch. I interrogated Bryan a bit further about where he thinks the evolution of this kind of virtual experience might lead us to.
That's where our minds went today. After experiencing virtual reality, we started imagining what it'd be like to be in augmented reality, taking those same tools and communicating and drawing and creating different experiences, right? What an amazing future we're marching towards.
You can't help but notice this guy's incredible optimism about a very uncertain future. And, I'll link below the video I did with the Future of Humanity Institute, which take a rather more concerned approach to the uncertain future. But this guy's energy is infectious. He's passionate about humans' ability to create and using tools to do that.
But he said we love to consume.
Yeah.
But today in our experience, we love to create.
That's true. That's true.
That's why, in my mind, they're tools of creation, because humans love to build and create. Just like with kids on the beach, we want to build a sandcastle.
Yeah.
Kids on the beach building sandcastles. When I grew up, I heard a lot of analogies about being childlike. Scriptures in the Bible saying, be like children. Not childish, but childlike. And I think it has to do with the freedom and imagination. And when you hang out with Bryan, you can't help but feel like he has this childlike imagination of the future that is absolutely compelling to be around.
It was actually amazing, like when I finished making my space and then you went into my space and experienced it. It was such a social interaction, and I gained so much more joy because you got to, and it was kind of vulnerable in a way. I was like, oh man, he's in my world.
Exactly.
That's my name, that's the stuff it was kind of crazy, that you could experience that and share that, even though it's now gone, but it remains with both of us, so it's a very real experience as well.
Yeah, it was an intimate setting, right? You're inviting someone into your mind space, what you've created and how you've manifested yourself to the world.
Yeah. Well, I can see how an artist could create a series of spaces, and that you would pay $1 to go in and hang out in their space. Like on iTunes that you pay $1 to get that person's song in digital format, like that virtual version of their audio, which is a whole crazy new kind of app store.
you think about, so I went to Burning Man this year, and I think about the amount of effort, physical effort required to set up these beautiful structures of art.
Yes.
And while, I appreciate them enormously, you consider the ease of what we created today.
Yeah.
And it's almost, in what Andrew created, now I forget who actually built this, someone created a Burning Man-esque type setting on the playa of lights and structures and different settings, but removing the barrier of creation, right? So that anyone can create that beautiful experience.
Yes. This is where Bryan's thesis about the tools of creation really comes to life, and you can see what he's talking about, that the level of creativity of sculpting that may have only been reserved for very few people that had the right access to skills and learning and materials is now available to everyone and can be distributed to everyone, which is just a complete new paradigm.
Like Louis could spend a whole year of his life building an artistic space in this, even in just this one tool we had, because he knows it can distribute to millions of people, whereas in the analog, how many people are really gonna
spend the time to do it. Yeah,
exactly, because you want to build more of them. You want to, as a carpenter wants to make more tables, or even if they have machinery that help them do, like those tools that help them create, they still want to make more and more rather than replicating one. So I think we will probably see more and more really unique, amazing spaces, because people can afford to spend the time if people are paying $1 a time and it's instantly replicable.
Yeah, as is evidenced by Second Life and Minecraft and other places where you can occupy worlds and create.
The amazing thing about new technologies and spaces is that they require new language to handle the interactions that are novel. And I've found that within the language of artificial intelligence and virtual reality, there are implicit prejudices and biases that I don't think will be helpful for us going forwards.
I found myself wanting to use that language of analog life and digital life, because they're both real, they're both me, and they're both time spent. You spent 10 minutes in that space. That was a real 10 minutes you spent, but you were observing a different reality, a digital reality. It was deeply quality time that I spent in there, and then when you came into it, it was all very real. Nothing virtual about it in terms of how deep and rich the experience was.
That's true. I guess as we think about it, we talk about our experience, it takes time to come up with the right words to capture the experience, right? We can explain how it felt to be at a sporting event or to be at school or be with friends, but in this situation, the words didn't come as easily because I had to contemplate the different emotions and psychological state I was in.
I would go as far to say that this may have been the most novel experience of my life, where I had the least amount of framework or prior experience to pull from in order to help me formulate the words to describe the experience I'd enjoyed. But coming to the end of our walk and the end of an incredible conversation and experience, I really wanted to pick Bryan's brains about what's most exciting to him, what he sees out of all the things that could be done in virtual and augmented reality, does he think will be the most interesting or valuable to us?
The thing I'm most excited about is when people understand our unique time and place in history, that it's never been like this before in terms of our powers to literally author our existence. And when someone understands that, the full scope of what that means, it makes me happy because it creates, I think, a shared new reality of what we are in the world, and it changes our aspirations and identity, which to me is important because we do need to have some similar understandings of those trajectories to cooperate on what we're building together.
Whoa. Take a second and think about what you just heard him say. If you need to rewind it, do it, because that is seriously profound. I'm also going to link below Bryan's OS fund, rewriting the operating system of humanity through tools of creation. They invest in crazy futuristic companies like mining asteroids and growing eggs, 3D printing, genomics, all the stuff we've been talking about today. But I know that he hasn't yet made an investment in virtual reality, so I wanted to ask him, if you're out there thinking about an idea or working on an idea with virtual reality, what kind of things might be good for you to think about that might kind of pique his attention?
Yeah, I would say a quick story. I have a friend, every time we go to a restaurant, she briefly looks at the menu and then she orders whatever she wants. She totally disregards the menu. And I've always been shocked by her behavior. But I think that, but it's been inspiring to me because she tells the waiter or waitress exactly what she wants. And I think in reality, we have a new menu of life. And so I think those who are contemplating what they want to do and be and become in life, there's a new menu to choose from, which includes these tools like virtual reality and others that allow people to choose careers and life pathways that their parents could never have chosen.
So someone's going to try and get hold of you and say they wanted you guys to be a part of their business they're starting. What should they bear in mind? What's one bit of advice?
That I invest in the operating systems of life, the things that would dramatically improve the lives of billions of people for generations to come. And so technologies that enable that are of deep interest to me.
Yeah, so think big, think about things that people could build on top of what you're building that could make life better for everybody.
Yeah.
That really was one of the most extraordinary work days of my life. It's so enjoyable to be able to collaborate with Louis making his vlog and Bryan making his blog, but also to learn so much from the guys in the MXR studio. Thank you so much, Andrew, for being able to stick us all in the same room at the same time. And thank you, Bryan, so much for teaching me so much, just in who you are and how you go about engaging with people, but also just exploring and imagining the future of childlike sandcastles with me. So much fun doing this, guys. I've done 4 other interviews that I want to create into these podcast experiments, so please do give me feedback. I know this isn't perfect, but I had to get moving and start it off. I've interviewed academics on interdisciplinary learning, spoken with Jerome Jar when I spent time with him in New York, a behavioral economist, Kirsten Berman, talking about empathy experiments and how we could construct those. And I also had another incredible experience at Stanford's virtual reality lab, where I experienced presence for the first time. I'd love to explain more about that. So stay tuned, please give me your feedback. I'm learning about the format, about the length, music, anything would be good. All the links are below. Take care, guys. I'll see you soon.